Oh, merry stock market. Oh, man. Woo!
That never gets old, does it?
It never does.
Cool. Well, if you've been on my channel for a long time, welcome back to Strongman. You probably will remember this dude, Jacobe, also known. Is it Jacobe or is it Jacob? Is it the French pronunciation?
It's Jacobe.
Jacobe, also known as Weaker Man. That was it. I made sure he had that title.
Yeah.
So he was in charge here. But you may recognize this guy. He was on here about 12 months ago?
Something like that, yeah.
And we had a very interesting conversation because he actually has a very unique job that actually applies to YouTube finance. What is your job, Jacob?
Yeah. Well, I work in Canadian finance, basically the Robin Hood of Canada, except a lot better run company with a lot better morals. And I got to work on the actual day-to-day trading of clients' portfolio. So I was seeing in live time GME, AMC, all that stuff going on. And I was at the same time going to school, writing, research papers and stuff on everything going on. It was a wild time. And I learned a lot and I cringed a lot at what I was seeing on YouTube and the types of trades I was seeing people make.
So you're not cringing now, though?
Less so for sure. A lot of people got wiped out.
I can tell. Have you, how's the VinFast going? That meme stock from Vietnam. Is there any craziness going on at the firm you work at about that thing?
Yeah, there's less of that kind of craziness going on, and specifically because it's a Canadian firm, there's a lot of Canadian-centric stocks first, and then anything that's really mainstream in America or the general markets is then going to find its way in.
Okay, cool. So before we get to the main topic, so it's the Robin Hood of Canada. Why do you call it the Robin Hood of Canada?
Yeah,
an app with confetti.
It's because it's an online only brokerage. So I guess that's kind of similar to Robinhood, how it's an online only brokerage within the United States. But Questrade's the company I work for. There's a few real large brokers within Canada, and Canada has a very centralized banking system, unlike America. As you've probably recently noticed with a lot of the smaller regional banks failing, that's not really a thing that happens in Canada. There's been a lot of monopolization, good or bad, and Questrade and Wealthsimple and others, don't have to name names, are just very high quality run companies, and they're online. So if you're not a Canadian, you're not going to really know these companies I'm talking about, unless I compare it to something like Robinhood, Webull, or Schwab.
Yeah, because you say Questrade, it rings a bell, but it may just because we talked about it last time. It sounds kind of familiar, but it's definitely not one of the huge brokerages out there. So let's go ahead and dive into one of the two main topics, which is your observations of what's going on both in the market and, in YouTube finance in general. Because, we were talking before the stream started, you were like, oh, I noticed some trends, some things going on in YouTube. Tell me a little bit more about that. What are your thoughts about this whole?
Yeah, I got some couple interesting thoughts on it. So for everyone joining us, first of all, thanks for coming out. It's an evening, and that's always great. You guys are interested in finance, watching YouTube, a couple of nobodies, talk about finance. That's sweet. A little bit about me. Yeah, I went to school for finance, studied it. A lot of research went into it on the different types of topics that I'm interested in. And, I learned a little bit about how investors think and the types of things that they do or don't do. And then I got to actually work in that field. And if a lot of us remember, if you're new to investing relatively only these past few years, you're going to have experienced a complete change and divergence from how stocks were talked about and dealt with, say, even 5 years ago. And 2 or 3 years ago, through the pandemic, we had these huge hype meme stocks pop up. They exploded. YouTube finance exploded. You guys know all the big names: Meet Kevin, Graham Stephan, Lufufu, all those guys exploded in popularity, came out of the woodwork talking about stocks. and they made a bunch of money, and then what happened? The stocks went down, and these guys lost a lot of money. And the whole ad partnerships with different sketchy businesses was going on, and where we are now is we've now transitioned from this type of hype market of speculative low cap companies to now a lot of these YouTubers, after they've had this crash and burn, are focusing on large tech cap stocks, because as you've probably noticed over these past 6 to 7 months, there's been a massive run up of all these tech companies that are large cap. And I think that's indicative of seeing Jeremy's profile, where he now primarily has a lot of large cap tech stocks carrying his portfolio, where he swept aside his losses of, Tattooed Chef, for example, and now he's talking about Meta or Amazon, Google, whatever. And that's kind of the state of finance now, where people are less focused on these individual speculative companies because they got burned, and now they're moving on to these large tech caps. And I think we're seeing the same kind of transition play out like we did with weed stocks back in 2017, 2018, where big hype was on weed stocks during that time period. Then it transitioned to COVID stocks, online only stocks, and now it's back into big tech.
Yeah, so I actually was thinking the same thing, because I knew, maybe in 2022 when all of Jeremy's stocks were crashing, I was like, oh, this dude, he's eventually going to transition to something. And I was thinking to myself, what are the stocks that are, profitable, that have done extremely well, that everybody knows about? Large cap tech. And I kind of thought about it. I was like, yeah, I feel like a lot of these YouTubers are going to transition a lot of their stock picks from crap stocks to large cap tech, because it's safe in a way, or at least people perceive the stocks as safe, and they've performed like very, very well, at least in the last decade or two. So it didn't surprise me at all that they transitioned to large cap tech. Now that they're doing that, would you say that's a little concerning for large cap tech? Do you think that's an indicator that we're at some kind of bubble or top in large cap tech, or do you think these guys are just riding the index wave and they're going to be fine?
I think it's a little bit of both. So the whole problem with stocks is that once the stock is talked about and it becomes known, it's leaning more towards being in the overvalued sphere, right? That's when everyone's talking about it, when people on the bus, or like Warren Buffett would say, when the kid on the bus is talking about a stock, it means it's probably overvalued. And that we could be there with tech stocks. I know they're also heavily influenced by macroeconomic factors like inflation, interest rates, and all that. But I think even tech stocks such as Nvidia right now is a shining example of retail investors clinging on to a story and driving up the price to levels which might not be very sustainable. Because Nvidia was talking about and reporting the same types of technology and similar, fields they wanted to move into, this AI field 12 months ago, but nobody cared. It was only once the news story caught a bid, so to speak, this year that Nvidia price exploded.
Yeah, that the whole AI thing really it woke me up to almost the futility of talking about these people, which we'll get to that later. But I really thought we kind of, or at least I thought I had a lot of these guys by the balls, because we had the whole crazy market in 2021, and then the stocks all, crashed and went down massively. And I was like, you know what? Maybe the clownery is finally over. And then right when I thought it was over, we had these insane rallies in multiple large cap stocks. I mean, what are your thoughts on the whole shenanigans that are going on with large cap stocks? Do you think it's just euphoria, or do you think AI has some legs? Like, what are your whole thoughts on that?
Man, well, I mean, I always got to be honest. If I don't know something, I'm going to say I don't know it. And with AI, I didn't go to school for programming or software engineering. So I don't know that much about the actual technology of AI. But something I do understand is future cash flows and, overpaying for future cash flows. So, these AI companies are promising a lot, that they're going to make a ton of money, bring in, high revenue, high net income. And it's a matter of paying for those future cash flows, and then that being then reflected in the stock. Tech companies are also well known for diluting the shareholder with share-based compensation. So even if these companies make a lot of money, they could dilute you with the amount of shares that they issue. So the answer, if AI is going to be everything that it is going to be, I don't know. Are we overpaying for it? Potentially. That's the best answer I can give. I'm not going to talk out of my ass on something.
That's the hard part about investing, and that's ultimately why I am fundamentally an index fund investor. Because, for example, in Nvidia's earnings, a lot of people are like, oh, it's a stupid bubble, and oh, it's going to pop at any moment. And then these recent earnings that came out, they were actually incredible. Like the growth of their earnings per share, their revenue was absolutely insane. So when I saw it, I was like, maybe there possibly is something behind this whole AI thing. Obviously, it's not going to be for every single company. I mean, I've seen some companies that are like saying, oh, we use AI. And you go to the website. It was like
blockchain back in 2020. Everyone was talking blockchain.
Well, yeah, like there was this makeup company, and I went on their website, and they had a questionnaire, like a quiz, that basically helped you pick your makeup. And they were saying that was machine learning and AI, and they were putting that in their financial reports. And I'm like, that's BS. I even asked my wife, I was like, have you ever been on a website and they give you a survey to help you choose what makeup you want? She's like, yeah. Like, this isn't freaking AI. So, obviously, like I said, some of these stocks may have legs. AI may play out and make some of these companies insanely profitable. It's just really hard to figure out which ones actually will.
Yeah, it's really hard to. I think that's actually something that we talked about all those months ago. It's really hard to value companies because consumer sentiment could just, people are willing to pay higher prices for something. The market sentiment changes from decade to decade, and the way information is now instantly disseminated across the market, everybody's instantly reading a 10K and the algorithms are getting to work. This might be the new norm over these next 10 years, is even though we're overpaying for these future cash flows of these companies, that might be just what people are willing to do.
Yeah, you never know. That's why I'm an index guy. Are you mostly an individual stock picker, or do you have index funds? Like, kind of what's your strategy and all that?
Yeah, so my strategy is majority index funds, because I like to think that I know a lot, but I know that probability means I probably don't, and the market will probably beat me, as it's beat 99% of most day traders. So yeah, majority of my money I put in diversified ETFs. But what I do like to do is I do like to niche specifically into some industries which have really high returns on capital, because I like to, I understand financials and how to read them and read a statement, and so I have a little bit of an edge in that field where the average investor shouldn't even try. Just buy a normal VTI or whatever VT, you're good to go. But if you have a little bit of financial education, you can maybe pick a couple more industries which are more profitable. Again, you're statistically might not beat the market still, but hey, I'm looking at it all day, every day in my job. I might as well try.
Have you had any massive winners that you're allowed to discuss?
Massive winners.
Tesla?
Yeah, interestingly, I didn't invest in Tesla when it was still relatively young, but I didn't care because I owned a piece of it in my ETF, as you do with VT. So, I got a piece of that action as it went up. And I mean, Tesla's a whole other, thing to talk about. And, a lot of people on here feel strongly about it, so I'm not going to bash it. I like stocks which are profitable, that make more money than they did the year previously. If a company does that, I like it. And, massive winners that I've had. Shopify, if you think of Canadian stocks, a lot of Canadian stocks aren't as popular as American stocks, obviously. That means there's a gap there where you can exploit it, where there's only so many Canadian investors looking at Canadian stocks. So some of my best winners have been Canadian stocks, not American. And of course, always buying what you know. Like I like shopping at Costco. I like shopping at different types of stores. So buying those individual companies that I use on a daily basis has also been a pretty good strategy for me.
Oh, so you're a Jeremy.
That's kind of like Peter Lynch a little bit.
Kind of like you just go to the store you like the most. Is that what you invest in?
No. So there's some stores I go to where just because I like them, they could still be a terrible business. Right. So it all comes down to the numbers. And I know that, picking individual stocks, I'm still unlikely to beat the market. So, put a small portion of my money in that and get lucky, lose sometimes. But again, because I have a large margin of safety and overwhelmingly the majority of my money is in ETFs, I'm safe.
Yeah. My favorite company of all time is Walmart. Like I have a almost fetish for Walmart. It's like whenever I walk in Walmart, I just like I'm getting a great deal, and it just makes me feel all good inside because I'm a cheap ass, But I can't really buy Walmart stock. To me, it feels like it's for what it is. It's really expensive, but I love it. So that's probably if I had to choose one stock that I would own forever, just as like a personal thing, it would probably be Walmart. I actually did buy it briefly during the pandemic. I was like just chucking money in a couple stocks, but I was like, this is freaking stupid, and I sold out of it.
Hey, that's totally fair. Everyone's done that, and of course I've lost on some ones too. So everybody likes to talk about their wins, but I mean, I've bought some real crap companies, man. Like, damn, when I was younger. But that's how you learn, right? Like, a lot of us when we first start in investing, we hear the stories like, oh, be diversified, blah blah blah. But you see those dollar signs of people making tons of money online, whether it's through options or penny stocks. And I guess it's almost like gambling where you get that itch like, oh, I want to go make all that money in blackjack. And then so you sit down and watch 5 hours of how to count cards. A lot of people are like that with stocks where, they get into stock picking and they make some money and then they lose a lot of money and then they smarten up. Hopefully you learn quickly and then you do actual investing in diversified ETFs.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the progress of the average retail investors, the first thing they do is they download Robinhood or some other Quest Trade, and then they they watch a couple of YouTube videos, they buy hype stocks, they get absolutely wrecked.
Yeah.
And then once they get wrecked enough, they hopefully transition over to indexes or ETFs, like you said. Some of them don't, though. I've noticed a psychological thing with investors is they'll lose money on one stock, and they'll say, well, I lost money on this stock, so I have to make it back. So I'm going to take greater and greater and greater risks. There's that type of person as well. So people like that, you can't really teach them. They just have to get destroyed enough. It's just sad to see it happen because it's like, the opportunity cost of you losing money when you're young, I believe it's a fact. It's way worse than if you lose money when you're older. Because if you had actually invested money properly in your 20s and 30s, and you let it compound in a diversified ETF over 30, 40 years, that's a lot of future money that you're giving up by losing your money in clown stocks. A lot of people, they don't realize that. They think, oh, I'm young, I can gamble now. It's like, no, you should actually, I would almost say you should gamble less when you're young. You should take the safer route when you're young and let that compounding happen over time. And then if you're older and you want to screw around with clown stocks, okay, use part of your portfolio. But that's kind of like my counterintuitive logic, I think.
Yeah, and I think that trend is actually just going to continue to get worse because 10, 20 years ago, to trade in the stock market wasn't the most accessible thing to most people. Even 30 years ago, you had to call up somebody and say, hey, can you place this trade for me? Now you just flip your phone out and you're trading, right? You're doing like 1 day expiration options with like your whole college fund. It's a trend that's going to continue, and I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, I actually don't like Robinhood. And the more I think about it, the less I like it because they always talk about, oh, we're democratizing investing. We're bringing, investing to the average person. Well, it's like index funds already democratized investing. Like we don't need the ability to swipe on an app, and it used to have confetti at least, and buy stupid options or something and gamble our money. That's not democratizing investing. That's actually just, I think, giving the professionals more of a opportunity to fleece retail investors. But that's just my old boomer thoughts.
No, yeah, that's kind of one of the cruxes of no fee online brokerages. Is people can trade as frequently and as often as they want, and the brokerages are there to just facilitate that. And that can be a problem to some people who don't have impulse control.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of people. I mean, most people don't have the patience to be true index fund investors, at least in my opinion, because it's actually really hard to be an index investor. People are like, oh, it's so easy. You just buy an index and you hold it. Well, the problem with that is, especially in this environment, is you see other people just making killings on something. Oh, I bought Meta and it went up 3,000%, or I bought Tesla and it went up this much. And you see those people, and a lot of people are like, they get pissed because they feel the FOMO. They feel, like they missed out. And they get tempted to sell their index, which hasn't gone up in a year or two, to try to, match the returns of some random person they saw on the internet. So in my opinion, I think holding a broadly diversified ETF over your life is actually one of the hardest things you can do.
Yeah, it's, staying consistent with anything is difficult. Like, that's why people aren't consistent with going to the gym. They don't see that immediate gain, and they see other people. It's hard. It's not fun. Yeah, like I tell actually a lot of people this when they're getting into investing. I make the comparison to like working out. I tell people, look, why do you go to the gym? It's not because you love working out. You don't like, I mean, hey, some people do, but most people don't love doing, bench presses and stuff. And doing it every single day and eating healthy, but you do it because there's an end result, because you want to look good, whether it's to attract somebody or just live a healthier life. It's the same thing with investing. The reason why we're putting all this effort into saving money and being consistent is because we want to retire early, leave something for our kids, blah, blah, blah. And it's not always going to be fun. There's going to be times of pain and there's going to be high moments. And I think that emotion is getting hijacked by social media, by people like Jeremy, who are playing onto people's desires to do it quickly, and they're gaining from it. And as you've probably have talked about in past videos of yours, it's not stopping. It's going to continue. Like the expression, there's a sucker born every minute, and that seems to be the case.
Yeah, I almost feel like a child, like, oh, when you're young, you're naive and you don't really know how the world works. I kind of felt like that was me on YouTube when I first came on. I was like I really thought for a second that my channel would eventually get huge, and then all of these scammers would just collapse, and their audience would hate them and leave them forever after the whole bubble popped in 2022. I really thought that was going to happen, and then I came to realize I grew up. I became wiser in the investment world. I realized, even though a lot of these people had invested in multiple stocks that went to zero, they just moved on to another stock and just pretended the old stocks didn't exist, and now they're doing better than ever. So I'm at a point now, it's like I don't know, it's time to move on and do something else.
I would be really interested to see the statistics on the big YouTubers churn rate, because if you look at a lot of their subscriber counts, they had massive subscriber growth 3 years ago. It's kind of stagnated for basically all of them. But their views now don't, like the ratio of their subscribers to their viewers is now changed. It's lower. They're still getting consistent views. So my thoughts or my guess would be they've churned through their audience. They've churned through the 2020, 2021 audience block, and now they're on the 2022, 2023 audience. Like I said, a sucker's born every minute. There's some new kid becoming 18, 19, discovering stock picking. I think that's likely what's happening. They're just getting a churn of new customers, so to speak. And that's why it feels like you're not making an impact. You are, but it's not going to ever feel like that. It's like Las Vegas. You're never going to beat the house.
Yeah, you don't. I never really get the satisfaction of like a total victory. Yeah. Like even with Tattooed Chef, like I saw it went bankrupt a couple months ago. I was like, oh, it went bankrupt. Oh. And then I realized, okay, well, Jeremy's just going to stop talking about it. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So, yeah, this channel is going through a time of transition. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but it's going to be rough. My views are going to go down. I'm going to be poor. I'm not going to have any ad revenue. But it's actually relaxing because it was stressing me out. Like it was really stressing me out to, all the time I put into it and all the clowns that I roasted, and they just kept thriving. And it was like, these dudes just, these pieces of trash are just not going to go away. It's frustrating. It's like you see somebody committing a crime and they don't get punished for it, But I know, woe is me. What am I going to do? Go back to my full-time job tomorrow?
Ah, man, what a sucker, man. Making a living for your family. How dare you?
It's wild, man. I remember I was thinking a couple, like in 2021, I didn't have any kids. I was flush with cash. Both me and my wife were working. I was able to screw around with individual stocks. Now, like 3 years later, it's totally different. I got a car payment. I got a mortgage. I got 2 kids. My wife stopped working. It definitely
subscribe to Jeremy's Patreon.
Yeah, I know, it changes your perspective. Like a lot of these people, they spend all this time picking individual stocks and they do research and read 10Qs and 10Ks. But as you get older and you get a family, you quickly realize you just don't have time to do it. It's really hard to do.
Yeah. Yes, and sometimes like we put so much effort into making more money in the stock market. It's like maybe if you just put more effort into like getting a better job, or like not, ordering Uber Eats every single day, and like saving some more of your money.
Somebody that does that. That's so expensive. Yeah, my wife was like, we should get Chick-fil-A like one of these nights. I was like, find out how much they're going to charge. And normally I think we pay for my family. It's like $30-something. Those clowns wanted to charge $60, all included, including delivery. I'm like, I'm not paying $25 for some 18-year-old to drive me my food. Are you serious?
Yeah, for it to be cold by the time it gets to
Yeah. So it blows my mind. It's like, who's paying for this stuff? But apparently people do.
They do. It's because of convenience. And, maybe that's a whole other area outside of the world of stocks is, talking about people's mentalities and attitudes of, convenience. People love Amazon one-day shipping, right? They love that more than they care about anything else for a lot of people. And it's just, the world changes. And, as we get older, like I'm 26 right now, getting older in my investing career and my working career. And I'm seeing these new generations of people who are 18, 20, 21, what their views of the world are, whether it's politics, stocks, eating healthy, exercising, and the world's changing. And like your YouTube channel, that's going to change. And that's a healthy thing. YouTube has gone through these changes over time. I was using YouTube back in 2005. I was there watching those horrible made videos by Smosh and Fred. And look what it is now. Highly produced content, highly curated, commercialized. It's hard to compete.
Yeah, that's why I don't even try to compete. I throw together some shitty thumbnail that I took 2 minutes to make, and I film with a freaking disgusting garage in my background. I don't even try to compete because
you have your shirt on more.
I know. I'm actually going to start wearing a shirt now. And to be honest, the reason I usually don't wear a shirt is because it's hot as hell in here. I'm in a freaking garage. What's up?
What state are you in?
Virginia.
Virginia. Okay.
I mean, this is not the hottest state in the U.S., but it still gets pretty freaking hot in the summer. And in a garage with no AC, yeah, I'm not wearing a freaking shirt. I mean, sometimes I'm in my underwear. I kind of like angle the camera so you can't see. But yeah, I'm a wild man. So let's talk about grifting. What are your thoughts on turning to the dark side? You think I should become a grifter now?
Man.
Should I sell out and just, if you can't beat them, join them?
I mean, it could be like a really good joke, like a really good meta joke to like grift in a way. I think you could do it smartly. I think there's a way you could both balance the hot stocks that are talked about, to garner the views, but then kind of sucker punch people at the end of the video and kind of sneak in your message. I think that's totally doable. I think that's something that a lot of YouTubers do. They transition to, instead of like a news or like a daily report of what's going on in the market, they instead transfer to like storytelling kind of methods where they'll still talk about a generic topic, which is hot and is going to get clicks. But then through their story, that's where they can show their personality and then eventually a moral with, some sort of redemption arc or, a normal 3-part story.
Yeah, a big part of my channel, a big problem with my channel is I was extremely aggressive towards stocks I didn't like AMC, for example. Obviously, I'm sure you've seen some of my AMC videos. I would just take a massive dump on the stock. And a lot of people, they would just be turned off by the attitude. But instead, if I'd been a little bit, not nicer, but I guess just more reasonable, I think more people would have potentially listened to me about AMC instead of listening to some guy shirtless screaming, saying how it's a clown stock. So, I mean, I'm kind of thinking of doing that. Like, I'm definitely going to talk more about, like, VinFast, and I'm sure I'll talk about Palantir again, but, be a little bit more calm. Because I've noticed people are definitely they definitely are willing to listen more, even if you're not super positive about the stock.
Yeah, and that again just plays into the psychology of an investor. going back a little bit into what I did, before I got a full-time job, was I went to school and I studied this type of behavior, wrote a dissertation on it. You can find it on my LinkedIn if you look me up.
Did you send that to me?
I think I did send it to you. Yeah, I wrote it a few years ago, and it was really interesting where I took a bunch of the theories that people have written and the studies that had been done. And what I kind of found was that an investor kind of boils down to three stages, or three things that every investor does when they're investing. And that is, the first thing, that something has to catch their attention. The next thing is they have to get the confidence that the information they're receiving is valid. And then lastly, they want validation. That is so big. And a lot of you guys watching this stream right now, you do it. If you buy a stock and you like it, you're going to want to go validate that that this is a good pick. You want to feel good about yourself. I do it all the time on everything. It's nice feeling good. So we seek out people who talk positively about the stocks that we invest, or the movies that we like, or the TV shows, or the food. You want to be around like-minded people to validate how you feel, to give you confidence. And then through them, they're going to bring to your attention new stocks that you might like. It's a very vicious cycle.
So are you thinking a lot of these YouTube personalities are just validators? They're
100%,
basically just telling people,
100%.
you picked a unprofitable, share diluting piece of trash,
Yep.
But it's okay. You're going to make money. Trust me.
And that is that type of community that is then created. I think some of the best communities, I'm not saying they're good communities, I'm just saying they're great because they've grown. One example would be Tesla. I think Tesla is like the be all end all of a stock community, championed by one man, Elon Musk. He's validating everyone's opinions on it. He's making everybody feel as part of a community. And that is also something that's evident in YouTubers, someone like Meet Kevin, the different stocks he talks about, or someone like, Jeremy talked about Tattooed Chef. Not only was he attracting people to Tattooed Chef because he owned it, it also made him, I would imagine, it made him feel good talking about it, talking positively about it. Just because he's the influencer doesn't mean he's not affected by, the pitfalls of psychology.
Man, when I'm fighting with my wife or my kids are sick, I always turn to the VT community and they always make me feel validated. It's kind of sad in a way if you think about it. It's like you're finding, but not you, but like people in general, they're finding validation in a stock community. It's such a weird thing to rally people around. Like I could see like an ideology or, a religion, but a stock, it's just so weird. I don't understand it.
It's the future, bro.
I don't get it, man. Especially Tesla. It's just such a weird, and you can tell there's a whole cult behind it because the stock, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why that stock is trading for what it is, but it just doesn't seem to die. I thought it would implode by now, and it just hasn't. It just keeps going.
It keeps on going. And that's another great point. The market can be irrational longer than you are rational, and you can become insolvent. Like just because you are right doesn't mean you've timed it right. Like the market, the stock Tesla could keep going up. You could have shorted it, and then 10 years from now it could crash and then finally burn when reality comes. You never know. So be diversified.
A lot of people have that problem because like they've said, "Oh, strongman, you've called so many stocks that have gone down massively. Why didn't you short it and make a fortune?" It's like, well, number one, shorting is very risky, just like actually shorting. And number two, it's not that easy to time it. I mean, I think at some point Tesla will implode. It could be a long time. And the amount of money that you're going to be dumping into put options and the fact that they could expire worthless, you could lose all of your money because you don't time it right. That's a huge thing that people don't understand. And I've bought put options before. I bought a put option against AMC. I was 100% right about AMC. Guess how much I made off that put option? Nothing. I lost money. I bought a put option against TLT, the long-term treasury ETF. Did it too early. And then right after I closed the position out, lost half the put option. Oh, then it went down massively. So it's very, very, very hard. It's not as simple as people think.
Exactly.
Do you screw around with options at all, or are you just kind of like just a stock?
Yeah, I don't screw around with options. Like I have used options. I had to study them, learn everything about them. It was very dry, boring material, and they can be useful. Like if you understand why options were invented, they help the market, stay liquid and facilitate a lot of daily market activity. And I mean, if you are if you want the risk and you believe in a stock, maybe go long options. Like that would be my only real recommendation, is do very far in the money, like far away leaps. Basically, I think that's safe. Stick to blue chip stocks. You have a much better odds of doing well, but it's risky, man.
I don't know.
Part of me
thinks you should buy options on. Part of me thinks you should buy calls on like clown stocks, because those are the ones that just absolutely rocket and make people fortunes if they're lucky enough.
Yep. I mean,
I've screwed out with options a little bit, but like I learned very quickly I am very incompetent when it comes to options. I'm like, I'm done.
It's okay to play. Like for example, it's okay to go to Las Vegas and have a great time and gamble. If you walk in there knowing I have $100, I'm not going to be walking out with this $100. I'm going to have some fun. That's okay. It might not be the smartest thing, but that's okay. Just like options. If you throw $100 into some risky option and you know that you're okay with losing it, that's fine. You can do that.
Yeah. The way I try to convince people to not do that as often is you have to equate how many work hours you're losing after tax when you buy this stuff. Because like, I've YOLO'd $500 into a stock here or there just for fun. And there was this one stupid penny stock that I bought. There was these, I don't know if you heard of these clowns called alpha status stocks. They were pumping this gold miner that didn't even have operations. But I was like, you know what? These clowns are probably going to pump this stupid stock, and then I'm going to sell it and make like 30%. So I threw $500 into it, and now it's down 90%. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I played a little game. I didn't lose my whole portfolio, but I also burned $450. How many hours did I have to work, sit at my job with a, 10-key calculator clunking away? How much did I have to work to pay for this? And when you put it in that perspective, it's like, should I really risk $500?
Yeah. I often look at it like, how many steaks could that have bought me? I'm like, God, man, that was like 14 T-bone steaks I just threw in the garbage, basically. I think of in food often when I'm losing money in the stock market. Yeah.
Well, speaking of steak, they don't even buy steak anymore.
Well, Costco steak's not too bad.
I don't go to Costco's too far. I'm lazy.
That's fair enough. Walmart, right? Walmart, man.
Yeah, and I get it delivered. I don't even go to Walmart. Oh. They bring it to me. That's how lazy I am. But yeah, were you saying something else? I thought I interrupted you or something.
No, not really. Just steak is good. my wife's actually vegan, so it's kind of funny. Another thing, if you ever get to know me, I've worked almost every kind of job there is, whether it's been an Uber driver, taxi driver, landscaper, kitchen. I've done it all. I've been really lucky to get a lot of different experiences, and I worked in a vegan kitchen. So here I am, a total meat eater, like, oh, I like my steak rare and all that stuff. And I'm learning how to cook vegan cuisine. So I'll eat anything. And it just sucks when you're losing money, because you think like, oh man, that could have been a really nice meal. Or how many hours did I have to work to get that money? And it's gone.
Did she ever eat Tattooed Chef?
No, a Tattooed Chef isn't in Canada. I was spared, at least not in my area.
Oh man,
we had the Very Good Food Company. That's
the Very Good Food Company.
Yes.
I think they're bankrupt now. I don't think they're in business anymore. I could be wrong, but
they do make a good product. I will say.
Yeah, too bad nobody bought it, or if they did, they weren't making any money on what they were selling. But yeah, I was actually depressed because I did go to Walmart on one occasion, and I always, whenever I go to Walmart, I always walk by the freezer aisle just to like see Tattooed Chef and what do they got? And it's gone. The company's actually bankrupt. Their products are no longer in Walmart. It was kind of like It's like the end of an era, you know?
Oh man. Well, you still got to use that YouTube intro you used for the tattoo trucker sweaty tank because that's still hilarious.
Which one is it?
The one like the tattoo truckers sweaty taint and Jeremy at the gas station with the truck driver.
Oh, when he's behind the dumpster.
Behind the dumpster.
Are you talking about this one?
Holy smoke, is this ain't no joke, as I was literally about to go to bed.
Oh my word, look at that.
Wow, do we have a lot to get into here today.
Woo, 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 man. Oh man, I love it. I love it right now.
My man, you had that lined up, ready to go.
Well, I heard tattoo trucker. I'm like, man, I gotta pull up some intros there. Yeah, it's kind of sad because like I guess I could play that one, but yeah, a lot of the intros are kind of like dated now. You know, I may have to do another intro contest and get people to
get some new ones in there.
Yeah.
Cool. I would do one with like the metaverse and like Zuckerberg for like Jeremy and like because you know he's really into meta right now. That's one I would pick. So if anybody's out there watching, help this man out.
I love how he was buying meta in like the 300s. It's what he does. Like he'll buy something at whatever price and then he'll just say buy. He'll just constantly say buy, and then when the stock rallies, regardless of his cost basis, you know. Suddenly he was basically he tries to portray it as if he bought at the bottom, which is very frustrating. I actually want to test out infidelity. I want to buy VT shares in 2 different accounts, and I want to see if I can transfer them between each other. So I can put all of the lowest cost basis VT shares into the account, and then I'll make that my public portfolio.
Yeah, say, look, VT makes you 100% per year, guys. Look.
I could because it's funny because like
the world economy doubled in 1 year
in my Vanguard account. So I timed like a Roth 401k contribution almost perfectly for the bottom of the market. So my returns on VT for that specific account is like 25% in the last year. Like it's pretty good return, right?
That is good.
You know, and it makes it seem like VT gained 25%, and then my other account that I've had for 9 years, that's showing like a 9% compounded return. So you see the difference, and I guess I'm a genius for buying VT and getting 25%.
It's still better than Jeremy.
It's the same freaking ETF. So let's do some comments.
Yeah,
here's a good one.
Talk about Planter. Oh my god,
you own it, don't you?
Man, I'll talk about Planter, but like, what hasn't already been said?
Do you like the stock or not?
Do I like the stock or not? I'm gonna get hate for this. I don't like the stock. I appreciate that it can keep going up. I'm not discounting it. Just because the stock you're grossly overpaying for the future cash flows of a company doesn't mean it can't keep going up, right? Like my opinions don't dictate the market. It can keep going up. I can't control that just because I don't like it. I'm not giving you investment advice. So if you want to put all your money in Planter, go for it, my man.
Well, now that you say that, you're making me think there's some kind of hidden Palantir shill. So this is actually a good topic. What do you think about dividends? You know I hate dividends. What do you think about it?
Yeah. So yes, dividends are irrelevant. It is a common misconception that I know. People think dividends are the be all end all, but you're right. If you know basic accounting and financial theory, like dividends have to come from somewhere. It's not just magic money popping out of the air being given to you. It's coming from retained earnings. So if a company decides to retain those earnings and not pay a dividend, the company shares are therefore worth more. So, if a company is going to either pay $1 out to you in the form of a dividend, you'll have $1 in your account. If they decide to retain that dollar within the account on the balance sheet, it theoretically should then increase your share price by $1. So dividends are irrelevant. Where they come into play, where they have a role to play, is your investing time horizon. So if you're older in life and instead of wanting to sell stock, maybe you instead want to have a taxable event, which is a dividend, a taxable event, sadly. Maybe that's the type of stock you then want to own later in life. But yeah, dividends are irrelevant in terms of the balance of payments, in terms of you'll still have your money if it's just retained within the company. I'd rather have equity appreciation over dividends right now in my investing time horizon because I'm young. But if you're a 75-year-old dude, then yeah, maybe dividends are your pick.
Yeah, I mean, part of me gets the whole dividend thing because even like I'm starting to kind of think for the future, like, oh, what am I gonna transition to bonds? How am I actually going to generate income in retirement? And part of me is like, you know what? Maybe I could buy SCHD and I could get a 3% yield and I could be exposed to 100 different companies in the Dow Jones or whatever. You know, I kind of get it, but I think at the end of the day, I'll probably still stick with the simple, lazy portfolio. I'll probably just have VT and some kind of bond ETF at whatever allocations I want. But I can definitely see the allure.
Yeah, you'll have the same return in a more efficient taxable way because you're not you sell it when you want to create your own dividends, so to speak, later in life. There's certain tax things you can do here in Canada. I'm not 100% sure on how a Roth works because I'm not American. So talk to an accountant.
Oh, like me? Our accounts are so easy. People struggle with them, but it's really like you either get a tax deduction up front or you don't. You either get it on the front end or the back end. That's basically it. You either pay taxes at the beginning or the end. It's not hard.
Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of people, they really discount the power of tax advantage accounts. It's almost sad because I remember going on YouTube. Yeah. But like I was watching Grant Cardone. He's like, oh, the 401k is a scam. I'm like, what? I'm socking away. I'm trying to max my Roth 401k, and I'm never going to pay tax again, no matter how much gains I have, no matter how many dividends I have. And I'm like, that's a scam? Really? I don't understand.
I will never take Grant Cardone seriously because the guy is a Scientologist. I'm never going to take that guy seriously. No, you ain't. Come on.
I know. I'm a dirty Catholic. Yeah, Scientology is weird. I don't really know anything about it. I have no interest in studying it. I've never been interested in religions. I don't know. I took a religion class in college, and it was kind of interesting, but I got a B in it. It pissed me off because I was trying to get a high GPA.
I love religion, not because I'm religious, but because I just love studying it. I went to school. It was something that everybody talks about and argues about when you're surrounded by a bunch of lefties or righties. So it's just a world that I got caught up in. And my wife is a rhetorician. That's what she went to school for. So imagine arguing with your wife. Imagine arguing with my wife. I'm losing every argument.
You got to use your masculine strength.
Yeah.
Quiet, woman. It works every time. Trust me. No, I'm just kidding. That never works. Oh, the Matrix has got me. So have you ever heard of this whole Matrix thing from Andrew Tate?
Yes. Yeah, I have.
Do you think working a job and, living a normal life, getting married, having kids, do you think that's the Matrix?
Do I think that's the Matrix? I mean, it's kind of like social norms. I don't think I'd call it a Matrix. I mean, you can really do whatever you want with your life, but like ultimately, like you got to make money. You got to do something to make yourself happy. And for a lot of people, that fulfillment comes from finding a partner, comes from working a steady job, because humans like consistency and humans like waking up every day and having a purpose, like getting out of bed, having a purpose, whether that's taking responsibility in the form of a family, whether it's responsibility for an animal or responsibility for a family member. I don't know if that's a matrix. That's a philosophical question, and I could talk for hours about that. I'm going to say no, it's not a matrix. But if you don't learn to think logically and question yourself and your place in whatever that you're doing, you're not thinking creatively. And if you think creatively, that could be anything as basic as creating something like something out of wood or writing an essay. Anybody can be a writer, no matter how basic it is. But thinking creatively, thinking something greater than yourself, that's not religious. It's just aspiring to be better. I think you can break out of any matrix that you think might exist.
Wow, man, that was really philosophical. I like it. Yeah, my matrix is
an art of thinking. Is what it is.
That I have. I need to break free of that. I actually got screwed because so I had my second kid, and we needed a new car because we had these little dinky 4-seaters, and it was right at the height of the used car bubble. But it was like I was kind of trapped, man. So that's my personal matrix, is that stupid car. I couldn't sell it, but from an investing from a monetary standpoint, a financial standpoint, it makes absolutely no sense, which a lot of people don't seem to grasp. Like you see on like Dave Ramsey or YouTube, they're like, oh, if you pay it off faster, you pay less interest. Well, if your interest rate is less than the inflation rate, you're not really spending any money.
Exactly. Just live off that spread and invest the money instead.
Wait a minute. Wait. Woo! Wait. Boom, 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 boom. Dance, boy. Come on. Boom, boom. Thank you, Gavia DJ. Aww. This one is from my boy Strongman. I started a grift on TikTok and done trading videos. We'll be grifting a course soon and maybe a Patreon. If you can't beat them, I'm going to join them. Bye, bye, bye.
Well said.
That's true. You got to join the scammers. Oh, here's another one. Look, I'm grifting hard. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. It's interesting comment there, buddy. Were there any comments you saw that piqued your interest?
I can't see comments right now.
What? Oh,
like I can see like the main comments that pop up, but
what are your thoughts on Everything Money? Do you watch
Everything Money? Yeah, I do, and not anymore. I mean, I am someone who already understands investing in a lot of investing concepts, so I more watch them for entertainment and just to see what they're saying. I learned a lot of these financial YouTubers because I was studying them when I was going to school and writing papers on them, and now I just casually follow everybody. When I'm not playing video games, I'm stuck watching or talking about stocks all the time. Everything Money, it's tough. So I hate what they did to my boy Seth. I love that man. That guy was so relatable. I think he made Everything Money so much more approachable to so many people. And with him gone, there's definitely a change in the feelings of that show, where it feels a lot more adversarial. And they preach good concepts most of the time, right? But I agree with you, their value proposition of a glorified Excel spreadsheet. I mean, grifters are going to grift. People are dumb. They're going to pay for convenience. It's what it is. As you can tell, I'm not talking highly about them. They are a lot better than most in financial YouTubers, but they're still a financial YouTuber. I think that's all I know.
It's not hard to be better than most financial.
Yeah.
That is not a high bar to overcome.
Yeah.
You could have a poll and just sit there and say nothing, and you're better than most financial YouTubers.
I personally think, and this is kind of just my overall spiel on what I personally think on finance YouTube as a whole, I think it's become really lazy. I think the bar for exceeding in the YouTube sphere is relatively low. You just need to talk about hot generic stocks. You can shill whatever you want and you're going to get views. And to actually differentiate yourself and be creative, I think that's something that's really attainable, but it's not rewarded, which is a real shame. And it's why there's no incentive for these creators to level up the type of content that they're making, such as Everything Money. I mean, they're just sitting in their basement in front of cameras saying the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, that's the really sad part about YouTube is you have to talk about the same stocks over and over again. Like I made it's kind of a joke. I made a couple Palantir videos.
They did
and
great.
I got like double the views that I normally, triple the views. It was insane. But it's like, I can't sit here and just talk about Palantir for the 20th time. It's like a lot of these people on YouTube, they actually treat it as their full-time job, which is kind of, to me, that kind of defeats the whole purpose. Like you got to have a little bit of fun, but they focus on like, okay, what's the trending stock? I'm going to talk about it. And whatever stock gets me a lot of views, I'm going to keep talking about that stock.
Yeah. And it's a problem that's not just the YouTube finance world. It's a lot of YouTube content. If anyone in here watches YouTube gaming, which is I'm sure a lot of us, considering almost all of us here are guys, a lot of YouTube gamers are stuck playing just one game. Like they get popular on one type of game, and that's the kind of content they have to make over and over and over again. And after years of making that kind of content, I'm sure I'd go crazy and I would just lose all interest. And a lot of people do. So it's a tough grind. I don't envy a lot of people. I've thought about getting into YouTube, like even last year I thought about it, but it's like, what am I really going to get out of it?
I would just say do it for fun. Like I encourage everybody to start a YouTube channel. I mean, like even if you don't become a massive, giant, you can still make money. I mean, even I make like okay money on YouTube. I can have fun at the same time. It's when you really start to get corporatized. That's when life gets miserable. But there's actually an interesting comment here. Maybe we can host this one day. Fabio wants a debate on dividend irrelevance. I've heard him mention it.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really much of a debate. Like, I totally understand both sides of the argument. Why a dividend is relevant from a I'm getting richer perspective. It's either the money is being either paid to you from the form of a retained earning, like coming out of the retained earnings, or it's just staying on the balance sheet and thus increasing the value or equity of the share. So in terms of like getting richer or not, it's exactly the same. Where it changes, where there's a debate to be had, is whether or not, and there's a lot of theories on this, whether or not the dividend signals to investors that the company is stable and secure, whether depending on your time horizon or what you're going to be doing with those funds or taxes, all those elements is where a debate can be had, where it makes sense for you. But I think I have a pretty strong case to say the actual balance of payments, so to speak, whether the dollar's on this end of the equation or that end of the equation, it's relatively exactly the same. It's everything else that's fuzzy on the outside. It's kind of the same argument that can be talked about the market efficiency theory, whether the market is efficient or inefficient. It's kind of both and kind of irrelevant. And that's honestly a lot of philosophy. The answer is there is no answer, which is really frustrating, but that's the way it is. No one is right about it. All we can have is just discourse and talking more about it.
No, I want to be proven right. Okay?
I wish we could.
That's my goal on YouTube. I just want to destroy every dividend channel. They can all go to 0 subscribers, and I'll be the king, and nobody will have dividend stocks anymore. Yeah,
but hey, great question, Capital Mindset. I do appreciate the comment, and I'm sure you'd be a really good debater.
Fabio, what is that clown now? You ever heard of JT Wealth?
I haven't.
Oh, you might want to.
Oh man,
don't have your wife around when you listen.
Yes.
There's one reason that people watch that channel, and one reason only. But I'll let you figure that out. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to find any more interesting comments. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, we actually got on a lot of the topics I wanted to talk about. If you guys have any questions, I mean, hey, I'm open. I can't give financial advice.
Y'all got 3 minutes to drop questions. I'm trying to see if there's any actual question. A lot of them are just clown comments. Fabio wants to install a communist government.
Well, it feels like I'm already half there here in Canada.
Yeah, Canada's the interesting case, man. Yeah. I hear good governments and bad things about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like any political thing. Like there's good and there's bad. I always tell people I hate all parties equally. I don't pick one side or the other. When you start looking at numbers and logic, you realize that all sides suck, and it's like, what's the point? Focus on yourself. How am I going to get a better job, save more money? When you put those types of efforts into yourself in your own life, you're going to live a much happier life.
That's a good point. Well, so apparently my daughter's freaking out, so I got to cut the stream. But we made it right to an hour, so it all went well. Well, thank you for coming on, Jacob.
I'm glad to be back, and I probably will return at some point.
You should, more mature conversation instead of talking about schlongs or something.
Yeah. The debate is mine's the biggest in here, so there's no debate to be had on that.
I mean, honestly, that's true, probably. All right, well, thank you all for tuning in. Everybody have a wonderful night. Cheers.